right. Good evening, and welcome everyone to the final District Advisory Committee meeting. Hello, my E-students. Welcome to the final District Advisory Committee meeting of the year. My name is Courtney Adams. I am the Family and Community Engagement Coordinator, and I also serve as the DAC liaison. Before I get to a quick announcement about listening to this meeting in Spanish, I want to let all the presenters know and anybody that's speaking today that we do have an interpreter online to provide simultaneous interpretation. So if you could take your time when you're speaking so that the interpreter has an opportunity to speak and translate or interpret, I guess, that would be great. And I'll also take a few seconds to transition to the slide so that she has enough time to go through. But thank you for joining us, Veronica from JVS. That's Veronica. Hey there in the red sweater. All right, and we'll go ahead and get started. I will turn it over to Camila so that she can provide instructions on how to listen to this meeting in Spanish if you would like. And then Veronica, now you can start the simultaneous interpretation.
Buenas tardes, muchas gracias por estar con nosotros hoy. Si usted quiere escuchar toda esta reunión en español, tiene la opción de hacer eso. Lo que tiene que hacer es en los controles de su computadora, en el seminario web, tiene que hacer clic en la parte de abajo, es un símbolo como un globo, y ahí puede poner clic en interpretaciones y hacer clic en español, y ahí vas a poder escuchar toda la reunión en español toda la noche. También todas las presentaciones van a estar en español y en inglés, y si tiene preguntas las puede preguntar y podemos responder en español. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Camila. Oh. And now I will turn it over to our District Advisory Committee Chairperson, Ms. Angie Lyle.
Welcome, bienvenidos. My name is Angie Lyle, and I'm the current DAC chair for the District Advisory Committee. And I'm also a Lincoln Prep parent, and I am very excited to bring you this, our very last meeting for the year. And I don't know about you, but this year has gone by so fast for me. So I feel like it went by a lot quicker than I had anticipated. We have enjoyed a lot of meetings over the last year, our DAC, and we have weighed in on numerous different meetings for Blueprint 2030. And I was at least on the bus to Jeff City this year. And so we feel like we've gotten a lot done. The district has been very busy with Blueprint 2030, and our DAC has worked as closely as we can with them to bring along some of the ideas that we feel would best bring more equity to all of our schools. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it is the end of the year, and I know we're going to be heading into elections, and we're really super excited about the slate of candidates. You know, it's really very heartening to see so many new parents stepping in and wanting to take that role. And so we're really looking forward to the election at the end of the evening. But I will go ahead and get us going to, I'm going to hand it over to our board member, Manny Abarca, who should be online to give us a board update.
Mr. Abarca, are you on?
He might not have the link, Courtney. Unfortunately.
Oh, I sent, well.
Did you send it?
I sent everything to June and she forwarded it out, so
Okay.
I'm not sure. And I'm also not sure what this blue line is across the screen, but we're gonna keep moving. Do you want to go ahead and introduce our next presenters, and if
Yes,
Mr. Parker
and
gets on, then
is-
we'll circle back.
Is
If I could just,
Dion?
if I could just step in for just a minute.
Sure.
There were actually two links. There was a link that came out that was in the email in the Google Calendar, and then there was an email that came out to us that was in our emails, and they were two different links. So that may be part of the problem. So
Yeah, there are
Well, we
links for
only
guests
just-
and links for panelists. Yes.
Right. And that, I think they were both sent on to June, so we'll have to double check, but at this point, we'll need to go ahead and move on. Got an agenda. But we've had several board members throughout the year join our meetings over the year, and we've really appreciated that presence from them. And we continue to try to encourage them to join. And we also attend committee meetings with them. So it's been a really great year of trying to really kind of integrate the DAC more into what the board is working on throughout the year. Is Dion online? Dion is our other board.
I'm here.
Dion, I would love it if you could introduce our next guest for us.
Yeah, no problem.
Great.
We have two students that are joining us today that we're going to be discussing the Missouri education legislation. These two students from East High School. We had the privilege of seeing their presentation this past Wednesday during the legislation executive committee meeting. And they did an outstanding job. So without further ado, Jennifer and I believe it's Anna from East, if you all are online, please take it away.
Hi, my name is Jennifer, and I'm really excited to do this again.
Hi, my name is Anwin, and good afternoon. I'm really excited to be here in the meeting.
Okay, so the legislation I'm doing is shorter funding, House Bill 1552, Senate Bill 869. Next slide, please. What is shorter funding? Charter schools are currently funded by outdated property values, which results in an issue with charter schools receiving 1,700 less per student compared to public schools, like in St. Louis, where they receive 2,500 per student. With the new legislation, the funding will come from updated property taxes, closing the gap between public and charter schools. The goal of this bill is to create equitable funding for charter schools. This will also put the Senate on the hook for future charter schools and their funding, including Senator Lincoln. And I put that because as a person who is trying to pass this bill, I thought it would be nice to put a quote by someone that actually supports this legislation. So next slide, please. What is the Missouri formula? The foundation formula has 4 basic components. Okay, no. Sorry, give me a minute. Okay, I'll just restart. What is the Missouri formula? The foundation formula has 4 basic components: weighted average daily attendance, the state accuracy target, the dollar value modifier, and local effort. Next slide. Founding and cost. Under the Senate bill, the Senate will pay the difference through an increase in the foundation formula to determine school funding. This is the method that Missouri uses to calculate aid for schools instead of transferring funds from traditional school districts. The cost of this new legislation is estimated to be $62 million. Before this presentation, I tried to see if I can find any new information within this legislation, but nothing has changed. So most likely the Senate bill is still the same way. Yeah. Next slide, please. Pros and cons. Pros. Money is being invested towards education. Public schools won't lose their funding. This bill creates provisions and new language on virtual school programs, gives parents the right to enroll their kids in virtual school without needing state or district approval. And the reason that the last 2 points for the pros are added is because even though the legislation is based on shorter funding, the virtual part for virtual school is also added to the legislation. So I added it. And cons. Shorter schools are not required to provide transportation. Public schools have more students than shorter schools. We have a high percentage of ELA students and students with disabilities requiring more funds than other shorters require. Next slide, please. My perspective. I am in favor of this bill. Education is education, and I think it should be reachable to everyone. The district will lose its funding, so I don't see a problem with shorter schools getting equitable funding. I think that if this legislation is made to create equitable funding for both public and district, I think that it should be passed because I think it benefits both students from both sides. And I think that education should be a top priority and that the opportunity should be given to the students. And that's the end of my presentation.
So my name is Anne, and my legislation is open enrollment, and the House bill is 1814. I'm ready to move to the next slide. What would this piece of legislation do? This bill allows students to attend non-resident districts starting in the 2023 and 24 school year. Families that own residential or agricultural property where they have to pay at least $3,000 in school taxes for at least 3 years may send up to 4 kids to a district outside the one in which they reside and where taxes are paid tuition free. School will indicate by October 1st whether they plan to accept students under the open enrollment program for the following years. So under this bill, they allow the non-resident districts like students from anywhere can apply to any districts, and if you starting in the next school year, if your parents have like property or like agriculture from different district and you want your kid to attend that district, but you already have paid at least like $3,000 in like 3 years, so you may send that student to send a kids to that district without paying any tuition fee. And this bill always indicate that the district have allowed to accept students in their school or not. Ready to move to the next slide. The pros to this bill is in the first 2 years of the program, districts will be allowed to set the limit on the number of students who transfer out to be 5% of the previous year enrollment. $16 million from the General Revenue Fund, all taxes to the new parent public school choice fund will be established to cover state aid payment to districts. What is the parent public school choice fund? It's supplement for transportation costs for students that qualify for free and reduced meals to repay for special needs education. I'm ready to move to the next slide. What are the cons to this? According to Kansas City Public Schools, the cost of children moving out of the district would be greater than the cost of those receiving. A pupil living in the district would cost roughly more than $9,000 in state and local aid. This means that it's not only like one student be transferring out, it's hundreds, it's thousands, and there are more to that. And 9,000 is so much great, and they're giving us like 60 million is not for Pacific School, it's for all the districts to separate it together. And I don't think this will help in the school at all. The state median annual property taxes is $1,265 compared to $3,000. Parent who have to send their kids to a different district school have to pay for all tuition fees. And I don't know how much that could be, maybe more than that. The competition, larger district would be forced. Larger district would be forced to compete against each other for resources and students. District competing school didn't have a choice to get enough resources for students to learn, but they have to spend it on advertising and creating new programs that can catch the attention of students and parents to show that they have the best program for the kids to get in. Ready for the next slide. What is the cost? 9,000. is about the state funded formula. It's like Jennifer already provided before, is the weighted average daily attendance, multiply the state adequacy target is like performance district and multiply the dollar value modifier and you minus the local effort. But what is the local effort? A calculation of local tax revenue, adding the prior year tax revenue, then dividing that by a prior year resident average dailies. I'm sorry, I will be moving this for a second. That by the prior year resident average daily attendance of the district of domicile. And ready for the next slide. Right now is the student perspective. The pros to this is better resources, because the school want to put out the best of the best, like extracurriculars and everything for the kids to get in, and safe learning environment, supported teachers and administrators. The con to this is transfer students may not participate in varsity sport during the first 365 days. If a kid want to participate in any sport, they have to wait for a year to be participating in. And no transportation is already provided in the bill that this bill will not allow any transportations. And the last one is admission requirement is some school may put out, you have to meet this to be able to get acceptance. I'm ready for the next slide. And the parent perspective, the pro to this is extracurriculars. I just want the kids to get in like the best school, to have the best extracurricular that meet the needs of the kids and increases learning opportunities. Transportation expenses are paid for students who qualify for free and reduced meals. It's like people that for low income that they have like enough money for that. And the con is they have to pay 3,000 taxes for 3 years. To pay 3,000 taxes for 3 years. And next one is no transportation. The district requires its district to define insufficient classroom space. They have to pay 3 taxes for 3 years, which is already a con, and no transportation for parents. That imagine they have to wake up like not just a day, is every day. It's like it is every single day. And the last one is sufficient classroom space is some school only allowed to get accepted a certain student. And what if your student, like with your child get on a list and they're not getting accepted? And there's I saw some news that there are like lottery or anything that like for a few kids like the sorry, let me rephrase this. So if there are only like a few spots left, they have to like lottery or like Powerball. They just do like that, picking out like a random student to get in, and that is very risky. And moving on the next slide, please. The teacher, school, and district leadership. The pro to this is 60 million fund from the parent public choice fund. Next one is the parent must at least pay 3,000 for school taxes that is greater than 1,269. Set and publish the number of students that will be accepted. The con to this is attendance unstable, lack of resources, school closings. School could end up closing because the loss of students will affect all the remaining students, and there will be less revenue to provide like extracurricular activities. And I'm ready to move to the next slides. My perspective, if the students are transferred to another school, the school funding will be reduced compared to enrollment, even with the help of the parent public school choice fund. That's already said before, it's like, is greater than 9, is like if the student moving out is greater than like 9,000, and that will affect like the remaining of the students. This high school is known for diverse students where everyone in the world is welcome together in one place. If the student want to transfer out to a district school that they know how to focus on what they need, then this could ruin their learning and ability to process the information from teacher. If students from different public schools want to attend it, transportation could be the barrier because the bill provides no transportation. This bill will cause the district to compete with other districts for resources and students. And the last one I would like to ask is the community. If parents send their kids to a different district school, they will be less likely to support the current district. And this could cause the district to stagnate the teacher salaries and program to be created because they have to keep the money in case the student population increase. Thank you so much. That's the end of my presentation. I'm sorry for all the rushing, sorry for that.
Well, thank you to our awesome East students. That was a ton of information, and that was really good information and really interesting to hear your perspectives on each of those pieces of legislation. Does anybody, we'll open the floor up now for questions about anything that the students have presented today. They are prepared to answer your questions, so feel free to ask. Angie.
I thought it was a really wonderful presentation. Thank you so much for doing all of that. And also my question is, given the amount of information that you had to dig through with each one of these, this was just 2 bills. How many education bills, do you know how many education bills go through the House and the Senate each year here in Missouri?
Well, I know that the other legislation bills are going on currently that we also discussed in class were the mandatory reading and I think it was virtual learning as well, besides these 2 topics.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I think it's just an immense amount of work to have to dig into each one and to really learn the pros and cons like you did. And I hope that we all can make decisions like this moving forward, and that we can also work to make information easier for people to get. That was great. Thank you.
Are there any more questions?
I've got one.
Hi, Mr. Rabarka.
Hey, everyone, and good to see you all students again. My question is, how do you think this exercise has helped you understand the process, and what will you do now differently than before you even started this project for the future?
Go first.
Well, yes, I want to go first. Like before this, I didn't know at all like open enrollment. I just like read through it. I was like, okay, this maybe like affect some kind of student. But then as time I dig into it, it's not costing like one student. It's costing like the whole district. It's costing not just one person. It's costing like all the people around Missouri. And I love to like keep digging in. And after digging in, I was like, oh, this is hilarious. Like, how can I create this bill? Like, no one asked them to create this bill, but they do it anyway. And I was like, this is, it's not helping us. It's just creating a problem to us.
I would add to that, there are certain topics like the mandatory reading, where it seemed like beneficial for those that require more help in reading. But then the more you research into it, you realize that it doesn't really help a large amount of students, but just a few select, because within the research, it talked about a lot about dyslexic students, but not everyone is dyslexic. So to make a whole legislation just to benefit those who are dyslexic, and any organizations that go ahead and like support them or whatever, isn't really beneficial to the other students. So yeah.
So out of 100 students, they would be like beneficial to like 6 students.
Yeah.
Like, that's horrible.
Did it make you think that there's something else behind the scenes if it only impacts so few students?
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Did it make you think there may be some other reason why this bill is being proposed versus just the impact of those 6 students?
I think because the people that are behind these organizations
Make money out of it.
Yeah, they benefit because they make money off of it,
Yeah.
of the legislation.
Yeah, they just put into the school, and they told the school to do this like us to follow, and we have to think that who's gonna get like the most benefit from this. It's not the student, it's not the school, it's them who making like the most benefit like out of all.
Angie, I think we have done an amazing job of creating this opportunity, because that's exactly what we talked about when we went to Jeff City. So kudos to you all for.
Yeah, this is brilliant. And Dion, thank you so much for bringing these students to us tonight. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I would like to add that this is that real world learning experience. I know Dr. Collier talked about this during our meeting. in which I had it in my mind when she said it. It was like she was reading my mind and the words came out of her mouth. But these are prime examples. These are seniors. I know these seniors want to continue to engage with the district at whatever capacity that they're going to be able to do that. I think they're going to be involved with our lit conference as well. But this is the work. This is the work of the community. This is the work of the students. And this is the feedback that I think we so desperately need as stakeholders on all levels, to include students, parents, community, faculty and staff, and district leadership. And so I would like to see this continue to grow and evolve as we continue to stay, in close connection with these leaders in our schools, as far as teachers, and the programs that they're providing and the teachings that they're given and the opportunities that these students have. And then really showcasing that and really teaching us as the community, because, we are working parents, we got jobs and things of this nature. And so for them to be involved at this level, this magnitude, and have that thought process go through their heads, they're many moons ahead of the game as far as where they stand as young adults getting ready to enter into this, the real world. So kudos off to you. Appreciate your time, your effort, your energy, and I'm looking forward to great things from you both.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Mr. Abarca, oh, sorry. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Angela.
I was just going to do the same thing, Courtney, and invite Manny to give his update.
Hello, everyone. I'm at my daughter's soccer practice, which moved indoors, so it's a little louder than I expected. But no, my name is Manny Abarca. I'm the board treasurer, and happy to be here presenting with you all. Last but not least, so sorry it's taken me so long to get with you all, but it is always a thrill to meet with folks dedicated as volunteers, as I am, in contributing to the school district. My daughter goes to James Elementary and loves it. And so I am a proud father of a student in the district. Yeah, in terms of an update, it is budget season. So I think the important stuff to talk about right now is the budget. We're in the midst of our planning programs. Here, let me see if I can move over here just a little bit so you can hear me a little better. We're in the midst of our planning process now to present the budget to you by the end of this month. So it is a public document to be considered and consumed by all. We have a public hearing next Wednesday for folks to have input into the budget process now. And I think the important element to talk about is to make sure that if you have a program or if your school needs a new playground or anything that is related to money, and this is what I've said every time that I go into a school, if you have needs that are financial, make sure you advocate for them to the best of your ability often, because that reality is we have money in the banks for everything from musical instruments to textbooks to just general supplies. And those are line items in our budget that never completely get expensed. And that reality is we need to be asking for more from our principals all the way up to the administration and the board. But next Wednesday is an opportunity for folks to give us direct feedback on what programs they like, what they don't like, what they'd like to see us expand on. So please, please, please join us. And even if it's just, hey, we like trees in our yards of our schools, come and ask for the money to allocate those. Students, I know you're listening. If you want to ask and advocate for things that you wish you had in your schools now, but want the next generations to have, please show up and ask and advocate for them. And yeah, that's part of our job, is to listen and to change and modify. There's going to be more resources allocated to our social and emotional programs to expand on the opportunities for our students to be able to communicate with each other as we transition out of this COVID environment and back into our school settings. The realistic perspective is that for 3 years, or a little less than 3 years, we've not been with each other, and we've been dependent upon these virtual environments. And that's created some stress and some anxiety around these opportunities to speak to each other and navigate through complex challenges. And then you add in all the other layers on top of that trauma and other natural growth progression occurrences, and it creates some hypersensitive situations. We need to help kids cope with that. I'm proud to say, I hope that you all had some influence in this and impact. We created as a board the Impact Grant Program, which put about $1 million of funds directly in control, in addition to budgets that principals already received. And that program launched this last 6 months, I believe, in collaboration with some of the COVID dollars we've received. And those programs were new money specifically earmarked to our schools to activate parent engagement, student engagement, and teacher engagement. So if you have a broken water fountain, if you have chairs in the auditorium that have been repetitively overlooked because of funding issues, but are small projects but high impact for within our buildings, that's what this was designed for. Some folks have used it to upgrade their furniture in schools. Some folks have used it for upgrading their playgrounds in schools, but this money was earmarked directly to make sure at the most engaged level that the frontline folks, they could have access to direct some of the funding and understand the process of budgeting, so that as we move down this road, the education process becomes easier. And as we talk about what to do with Blueprint 2030, these impact grants help folks understand better what we're doing with our money, where can be some easy ways for us to spend dollars that have high impact need. And this is a program that Dr. Bedell has committed to funding the next year. So as we learn, I hope there'll be more opportunities for us to really engage you all at the school level, but also at the district level, to make sure that you all have the input you need in these school systems and in the budgeting process. So that's probably the biggest updates that I've got right now. As we near for the ending of school, we are planning for programming with summer school, as well as just outside programs within my district specifically, that would surround Northeast Middle and High School. So we're focused on a lot of different efforts. You're going to hear from Dr. Bedell soon about engaging some of our governmental stakeholders, the mayor, the county executive, and those legislative bodies, to call attention to the needs of our kids and our school system, and what would make our community better, stronger, safer, and all those other wonderful things. So without further ado, I'll stop there and let folks ask some questions, because I know I've dumped a whole lot of things on you all very quickly. And I try to make my, sorry, one more thing. In the budgeting process, we have a new tool that I'm excited to introduce, and maybe I'm a finance nerd here, but the last 3 years, I've asked for the finance department to find and make our budgeting process more creative, more engaging, and more educational and informative. And what they did is they found a tool that the city of KCMO used that helps folks make decisions when there's money tied to specific dollar amounts that we have to make some tough choices for. And so we're going to roll this out in our budgeting process, and you may have already used it with Blueprint 2030, that will allow you to play with money and see where it can fund and how it can fund certain projects, and the true challenge of balancing a budget as large as ours with as many fixed needs and random emergency expenditures, like if a roof leaks or a boiler breaks and things like that. So you should start seeing this tool utilized much more beyond Blueprint 2030, but it's an exciting tool that came out of the finance committee and from the board as suggestions on how to make things a little bit more attainable for folks who may not be so tied into the budget as some of the rest of us. So with that, I'll stop there and let you guys ask any questions you may have.
Can you hear me, Manny? Okay.
Yep.
So thanks for that information. Remind me one more time, when is this budget meeting or deal supposed to take place?
So the public hearing is next Wednesday.
Okay.
At the BOE. I believe we start at 6 o'clock. But what I'll do is make sure that A&G gets a copy of this so that everyone knows the specific time frame that it starts.
Okay.
And it's come one, come all. You can show up. You don't have to sign up in advance to give that information, whatever information you'd like. But you can talk to any of the board members leading up to the finalization of the budget. We've got some fixed and targeted dates. We have to have the budget finalized by June. But because of some of the changes in the legislature as they wrap up their last 6 days now, we're trying to catch a moving target. We have some funding opportunities that expand our budget, some that shrink our budget. And so we've got some rough outlines, but until the legislature ends and we know the finite dollars are going to be receiving or not receiving, we've not finalized that budget. But that also means it's an opportunity for you all at any point chime in with us to make sure that you give us your opinions.
Okay, so my follow-up to that is, in piggybacking off of some of what the tools that the city use, one of the tools that I like, and it's somewhat the same situation as it pertains to them, because they have their committee meetings during the day or during the middle of the week when a lot of people can attend. So what they started doing was having weekend town hall meetings. And with those weekend town hall meetings at the community center, I want to say Southeast Community Center, that gave stakeholders the opportunity to really come and engage on a different level, in a different atmosphere and different time frame. I know that may, have a little bit of extra commitment time, but I think that shows the community and the stakeholders, that level of engagement that we're willing to do as a school district, in addition to what we already got scheduled, in our time slots as school leaders. So I know it's probably too late to do this year, but maybe next year, ending at the school year, the beginning or the end of April, the beginning of May, maybe we can have some weekend town hall meetings and really engage with some of these tools in addition to what you got going on now. But I love the direction. I love the energy, the attitude, and I'm looking forward to some of these budget changes.
Thank you for that. I've definitely want to lean into more of those opportunities. I know Dr. Bedell likes to be engaged in those discussions and not have them solely based on individual districts. And I think that's one of the reasons why it makes us a more unified board than some of the other more political positions. But duly noted, I think I've had two this last year with the Northeast Chamber of Commerce in my district, but there's definite opportunity for us to do more of those opportunities, community engagement, town hall type style events throughout the district and throughout our individual districts as well for those who are in district.
And Ms. Antoinette Brown had a question.
Yes, my question, is this meeting only in person or is it online as well? For next week on May 11th for the public hearing, is it just in person?
Sorry, I didn't know who that was directed to. It's both in person and virtual.
It's virtual.
Yeah, so it's both. So you can submit your question just like a board meeting. You can text in those questions. You can email in those questions or advocacy. You don't have to be present to contribute to that.
Okay. And my second question goes along with making requests for your school. Is it simply asking it at the meeting or sending it in via email? Is there a link or paperwork we need to fill out, or is there a presentation needed?
Are you talking about for individual ideas, suggestions, expansions, that type of thing?
Yes, for like a capital improvement of our school's parking lot, for instance.
I would talk to the principal first if there's not a SAC directly tied to your school, because that's really where we've activated a lot of the input is through those organizations. And I will tell you, not to my liking, but it was done very quickly for this budget season because we launched so late in our fiscal year. We only had about a month and a half for input. And so like me at James, I only had one opportunity in my SAC and one meeting to give input. And it kind of fell flat because parents didn't really understand the opportunity that this was and the way that it was presented, both from the district to the principals, then to us as parents. It wasn't really clear all the opportunity we had. So I've asked for multiple times from our finance department to clarify that. So, put a name to it. These are impact grant specific. They are for infrastructure up to, I think, in some situations, I think it was $5,000 to $10,000. You can stack these. It's very similar and modeled off of the Public Improvement Advisory Commission from the city, or PIAC, so that we had direct engagement. But I'd start with your principals.
Okay. We don't have a SAC, but we do have a PTA. So is that okay?
Yeah. Whatever
Okay.
your parent group is, because I know they
Okay.
kind of distinguish differently depending on the school site. Yes.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, any more questions for Mr. Abarca?
One more bit that I forgot.
Yeah.
We are getting such large increases in our band programs and our fine arts in a more robust way. And I'm excited to see those blossom and bloom. And as part of Blueprint 2030, you should see more opportunities in our schools that give your students the ability to experience something else beyond just athletics. So please continue to support those efforts. I know it was a hard fought battle for a long time, but I'm glad we finally broke through in these last couple of years. And there's, I think it was a $500,000 invested in just instruments this last year. So we're making serious commitments to our fine arts programs beyond just band, but many of them. And I'm very proud of our ability to do that. So that's another opportunity for us to sing our praise at KCPS.
Great. I don't know if you saw the chat, probably not, Manny, but we had a comment that's.
Yeah, I just saw it come up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the best thing that I can say for a situation like that, because I know the district is trying to build out a lot of these SACs or parent groups. But if you have a need and you don't have that avenue, talk to your principal. I know at King you have an incredible principal, and they have the ability to manage those funds, and they're the number one folks who can dictate where those resources go. And one voice matters so much more than having no voices from parents. So please chime in to whatever app platform you can. If it's not through a parent organization, through the DAC directly, or through your principal.
Yeah, and if you get into a situation where the principal's not aware or you're hitting a roadblock there, just reach out to us at DAC, because we can put you in touch with the right person a lot faster than trying to dig around on the website right now. No offense. Okay, any more questions, comments, concerns? I'm excited about this. I know that Steve was talking about some infrastructure needs over at, I think it was Southeast. So I think that's a good avenue for them too. And that's exciting. That's good news. Thanks for sharing that. What's next on our agenda? I'm lost without my Courtney.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't need an introduction, Angie. Thank you. I don't even know what I'm talking about first. Let's see. I think Blueprint 2030. Blueprint 2030. So hopefully if you've joined these meetings before or seen communications from your school or from the district in the newsletter, you are a little familiar with Blueprint 2030. It is our update to the current strategic plan, where we're looking at our system as a whole and figuring out how we can serve students and families better to improve academic achievement. What program enhancements can we make? So where we are in the process right now is we're still engaging around scenarios. So we worked with a consultant, and our consultant, MGT, came up with 3 different scenarios looking at the current buildings and programs that we have, the offerings that we have within those buildings, and what, based on the feedback that we've done with Blueprint 20 thus far, what things we can put in, what things that the community and our staff and our students have prioritized. So you can find our engagement opportunities on our website. That's on this page. You can just go to the KC Public Schools website /Blueprint, and it will come up, and you will see that we have rescheduled 2 community chats. So our community chats are our in-person opportunities to hear the information, have small group discussion, and give feedback, and then also provide feedback feedback via an online survey tool where you're comparing all 3 scenarios. You're looking at the cost associated with those scenarios and the impact, what that looks like for buildings and programs and enhancements. So we'd love for you to join us. We have a community chat scheduled for Monday, May the 23rd at J.A. Rogers Elementary. We will have interpreters there providing support in Spanish, Somali, Swahili, and Burmese. We will also have meals. We'll have dinner and childcare provided at both of these sessions. Our session the following day is at Carver Dual Language, and that session will be completely in Spanish. So we will not be having any other translation, any other interpretation, but I encourage those of you on this call, I know many of you are DAC delegates. If you could share this information, it'll be coming out too with flyers and social media promotion will be coming out as well, announcing these new dates. But if you can share and encourage your peers, your colleagues, your neighbors, your friends to participate in some form of engagement at this stage of Blueprint 2030, that would be appreciated. So come out and visit us in person at J.A. Rogers on Monday, the 23rd, or if you speak Spanish, at Carver on Tuesday. Again, meals and childcare will be provided. If you're not able to join us in person, darn, we have another way for you to participate online. So if you go to our website, exactly where I showed you before, you will see this handsome gentleman here. This is Jesse Lang, and you can watch the presentation online and look at the presentation materials. They are available in those 5 languages I mentioned before: English, Spanish, Somali, Swahili, and Burmese. And then you can still provide your feedback via online surveys. So there are 3 surveys, 2 related to prioritizing program enhancements in each of the scenarios, and then 1 survey, just exactly, that's the one that's here on the screen. How do you feel about each of the scenarios and why do you feel that way? So students, take the survey as well. This is for everybody. We want to make sure that we hear from more of our students, more of our families, more of our community members, excuse me, and more of our staff. Your voices need to be heard. These are changes that will impact you and your friends and your family members. And we want to make sure that we know where you stand. And so we can make sure that we're making the decisions that serve you the best. So join us in person or online. The dinners have been very good. It's not just Jason's Deli. I've been stepping it up a notch. So join us in person for some hot dinners, or take any of the surveys, all 3 surveys online. Any questions about Blueprint 2030? I see a couple of things in the chat. Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Welcome from Central Middle. Okay, if there are no questions about Blueprint 2030, I will move on. I have 8 minutes.
Hey, Courtney, can I just double down and say how important this is, as the board will be making decisions at the end of this year that'll be based upon the input of folks during this process. So please, please, please plug in where you can, send in any information, because as a board member, it's very hard to make decisions when we didn't have a lot of people in the room.
Very true. Thank you. Okay, and now what we do at every May DAC meeting is do a review of the current Title I district-wide parent and family involvement and engagement plan, and I get feedback that way. I also have an online tool to get feedback. So the plan was last revised last year, and this probably should have been on a different slide, but I'll ask for your feedback by May 23rd using this Google form. So I think I can copy this right now. Oh, now I'm going to go to the form. Great. Forgive me, guys. Sharing your screen. Okay, but you can't even see what I can see. Okay. Well, anyway, I am going to place the link in the, I'm going to place the link in the chat in just a second, but I can't see what you see. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. Let's close this. Okay. or you can send me feedback via email. So some important questions that will help inform the plan moving forward and the policy. And beyond just the kind of compliance needed Title I district policy, I will be using the feedback that you provide to shape how we move forward with family engagement strategies, procedures, practices at the district level and at the school level. So some of this will be incorporated into the Title I plan, and some of this will be incorporated into Blueprint 2030 family engagement strategies, and some of this will just be kind of best practices of the district. So these are 3 questions I'm going to pose to you today in the 5 minutes that I have left. What are some barriers to greater family involvement and engagement? How can we better support families with assisting in the learning of your children? And how can we foster more successful school and family interactions? We are really moving forward, going to focus on effective partnerships between schools, the district, families, and the community, and make sure that we're all working toward the same goals, which are supporting our students for their benefit. So here are some things that have been identified in the past as barriers for greater involvement. That's something somebody already mentioned. I think Mr. Abarca, that there is no standard parent organization format. Different schools have different things, and those different organizations have different levels of support. Meeting times is kind of what Dion alluded to. Early morning or late evening meetings during the weekdays may not always work for all of our families. So there's an accessibility issue, and also not providing sufficient language assistance. So some meetings might just be facilitated in one language when the school community is representative of many more languages. So you need to make sure that we have equitable access for all of our families to get engaged and involved. So that's what's currently in the policy identified as barriers, but I'd love to hear from you. If you can think of any barriers right now, I'll leave it open. Any other barriers to involvement and engagement? I'll go ahead to the next slide too. Be thinking, if you want to take yourself off mute, please do. How can we better assist families in help your students learn better at home? And so one of some of the feedback that we've received before is opportunities for parents to get that information and help build their capacity. So that's a big focus. Making sure that staff is accountable to really work well with families and be intentional in their efforts to partner with families, and making sure the expectations for customer service are high from a staff standpoint. We have a few more.
I want to jump in real quick, Gordon.
Yeah.
And so from my experience, I think a barrier really falls in line with communication with also the students. And I'll give you a prime example. When I was teaching, it wasn't until, because I didn't know even as a teacher what the MSEP-5 was and what it really meant as far as accreditation for school. So until I became a teacher and I went through that process, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what this means. What I did was I took that information back to my classroom, had a discussion with my students, and we broke it down. And so then they had an understanding. And when it was time for end of course testing, they took the testing a lot more serious. And so transparency is always key, because if they don't know how important attendance is, if they don't know how important the EOC is, if they don't know how important these things that pretty much make up a grade card for how our school is graded, our district is graded, they don't care until they know how much you care, and then elevate their level of caring in that process. And so I think we're missing a target within our schools and not really being transparent and just saying, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, but not really sitting and taking the time to break it down and getting feedback and understanding and comprehension with the students, who can also then take that knowledge back to their parents as well and help them understand some of this information too. So
I think that's great. And our students are our real connection to our families, right? To share information. They're the best way to share information. So I think you are onto something there. And Miss James, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Courtney, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. One thing that I've heard several parents say is that, like in the charter schools, they say that there's more communication. I know a couple of parents from the girls' school, KCPS-TV, and they say that there is a policy there that the teachers have more contact with the parents and that they call them on a regular basis with good progress. You know, they don't just have contact with the parents when the students are in trouble or doing bad, but they call them to give them updates of when the kids have good days and when they're doing good work. And that is one of the things I think that they have better PR or better correspondence with the parents than my granddaughter has been in public school. She's 6th grade now, but she's been in the public schools since pre-3. And so I think that that's one of the things that we need to do more is to have good contact rather than just, you know, calling when there's a problem with the children. So I just think that that's one of the things that we could do better. I don't know how you would word that, but I just think that that's one of the things we need to focus more on.
And you are right on target with that. That's what the research and best practices supports, is that teachers need to be in constant communication with families about all things related to the student, good or bad. And I think the best way to build the relationship is starting off with sharing some highlights and some good things that are happening in the classroom, that are happening with the student. And so that if there is an opportunity, if there is a chance where the student may be struggling with something, you've already kind of started that relationship. You have a little bit more rapport, and a family member is not thinking, oh goodness, here they are calling me with something negative. Nobody wants to hear just only negative things about their student. So I think the best way to form a relationship, not I think, this is what the research says, form a relationship and partner is to have positive communication and have communication much more regularly. So I think you're onto something that is certainly a goal of ours, is to make sure that teachers are aware of some of those best practices and some of those strategies, and we help make it as easy as possible for them to communicate with those families more regularly.
Let me chime in a little bit and add to that comment too, because it's very right on point, and I agree 100%. I will tell you this: there's an advantage of some of these charter schools or new schools in general, because they're building out their program. So their numbers, student to teacher ratio, how that looks like as they grow, they have staff that will accommodate a smaller set of students that will then eventually grow larger and bigger, and then they can scale up their staff and resources to accommodate that as well. With KCPS, me being also new to the school district within the last 3 years, I know kids, teachers, things are more spread out. So it's going to be a challenge until we go through this process, with Blueprint 2030, and also maybe condensing some schools and adding more resources to be able to be more effective in those areas. But I do agree with you 100% wholeheartedly. And I think that KCPS, as Courtney already said, had that on their radar as we continue through that process with Blueprint 2030. So thank you for that comment.
Any other feedback? Ms. James? Oh, is your hand up?
No, I'm sorry. I'm finished.
Okay, Ms. Bell.
Hello, I'm actually at the track meet, everyone. So bear with me. It's a lot of commotion out here. But I just want to say that with the parent involvement and teacher involvement, I just would like to say that I have children in 3 different buildings. I have one in the elementary, middle school, and high school. And I can actually say in the elementary school, we have had a good turnout with the last couple of years, but due to COVID, coming back from COVID, we haven't had any really involvement. I think parents have really got comfortable with just doing Zoom, or they just relax. And I can say actually in the middle school building, I haven't really seen no involvement from parents, but I did suggest with the parents, with our SAC committee, is we need to give incentives. They're in middle school now, so if they're actually failing in their grades, if they involve the parents and say, hey, I need you to come to this meeting, this will upgrade my grades. So I just think that way it'll be beneficial to them. And also just letting the children actually lead the SAC committee, the meetings, and see what they want to do and get them more involved with whatever's going on. Even with the high schoolers, just make them do it community service. That's just all I want to say. But yes, I'm a very active parent. And I stay very busy in the schools, and I also do a lot of communicating. And I just think parents need to get back and communicate with the teachers. And like someone already said, that it's always good to hear some positive things with what your child is doing versus the bad things. So I just want to leave you at that note that we just need to get out in the community. I know even though we provide food for the parents to come to these meetings, they're still not coming. So we just need to put our heads together and see what we can actually do. Because not only am I a parent, I'm actually a teacher as well. So I see it all around across the board of everything that's going on. So I just wanted to give you my perspective.
Thank you, Ms. Bell.
You're welcome.
There was one more hand up, if I'm not mistaken. No, maybe not. Okay, well, I'm past my time, but it seems like there's a bit of an issue with my Google link. So if you guys would just stay on I'm going to stop my share and try to figure out why it's asking for permission. But I will also put my email address in the chat, and that way you can email me any additional thoughts or feedback that you have, so that we can get this incorporated to our practices moving forward. Give me just 1 second. See Adams 1. And thank you, Ms. Trout, for letting me know that didn't work. I don't know what's going on. Technology is sometimes not my friend. Okay, so I did put my email in the chat, and I will move forward to see if Angie or the rest of the DAC Executive Committee has any other, if they have any other announcements to make before we end this part of the meeting and get on to our voting.
No, we just wanted to say that we're happily supporting the student leadership conference that's being planned for June. And the kids, this is a completely organized by all students. So we're really excited to see how that works out. It's basically like a real conference with the hotel stays and everything. So we're excited about that experience, and we're excited about the upcoming election that's going to happen. So stay on, and Courtney will let you have that opportunity. And I just want to also send a big shout out and thank you to all of my fellow board members. It's been a pleasure serving with all of you, and I'm definitely going to stay involved in the district. I'm hoping to be on the executive committee, but I'm definitely going to be involved regardless. So really wanted to say thank you to all of you, because we've been a really great team this year. And Courtney, it's all yours.
I was going to add something before. I do want to give one last update. I know the district is going through a hiring process right now. Matter of fact, they were hiring, doing some interviews today for a new AD. So that is to come. sooner than later, hopefully by the end of this month. And whoever the new DAC committee is, please hit the ground running and get engaged with the new AD as we try to get our sports and extracurricular activities on the right path.
Okay, and I would like to thank you all